Joining us now to discuss this, Starmer's visit, is Tomas Roberto, UK Head of Public Affairs and Advocacy for the Committee for Freedom in Hong Kong Foundation. Tomas, thank you for joining us today. So, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer was previously a human rights lawyer. So with that in mind, what are your thoughts on the points that he should raise with Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping?
Thank you. The first point that he should raise, and the main point that he should push home, is the barbaric imprisonment of British citizen Jimmy Lai. Jimmy Lai is imprisoned in Hong Kong. He spends 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. He is imprisoned on baseless charges of sedition and secession. Essentially, his background is that he set up a newspaper called the Apple Daily in Hong Kong. It was a free market newspaper that was critical of the Chinese Communist Party. The officials there and the Chinese Communist Party itself didn't like this, so they've imprisoned him, and he supported previous protests in 2019 and 2020. So if there's anything that the Prime Minister can do in his visit and should do, it is free Jimmy Lai. He should come home as a hero, and he should come home with Jimmy Lai.
Of course, many are watching if the Prime Minister will actually bring up this point. But to you, why is it important to bring it up?
He's a British citizen. If the Prime Minister doesn't bring this up, if the Prime Minister doesn't try and secure Jimmy's release, then a British passport is worthless. There needs to be some meaning behind being British. There needs to be some meaning behind the security that the British government provides its citizens and its subjects throughout the world. And this is the perfect opportunity to do that. If the Prime Minister is going to China and he doesn't raise Jimmy's case, and he doesn't try and secure his release, then it's just acquiescence to the Chinese. He's just going there with a begging bowl, looking for money, looking for trade deals, looking for economic development, which the Chinese won't be giving the United Kingdom. So he should be pressing as hard as he can for Jimmy's release as soon as possible. He's been in solitary confinement now since, I think, about 2020. It's time that he was brought home.
Okay, so Tomas, if it comes to be that he was successful in getting Lai released, what message would that actually send to Chinese dissidents and Hong Kongers living in the UK right now? What's the message?
That would be an enormously positive message. It would show that the British Prime Minister, has Hong Kongers' backs, that he is willing to stand up to the second largest economy in the world. He is willing to put their interests ahead of any trade deal that is dangled in front of him by the Chinese, that he is willing to raise these difficult issues. He's willing to have a foreign policy that has a conscience, and he is willing to put British interests, British national security interests, and British values ahead of any trade deal that the Chinese claim that they may or may not give us.
You know, I'm just wondering here, because the new Chinese embassy in London was approved right before this trip. I mean, does that help the Prime Minister with his negotiations? Or, could it have been more useful to use as a bargaining chip to set out some ground rules with the Chinese regime?
Absolutely. The British government should not have approved the Chinese embassy, the Chinese mega embassy, prior to the visit. It's left the government empty-handed in their negotiating tactics. This embassy poses a huge security risk to Britain and her allies. It's an enormous site. It's located within less than 3 feet from very sensitive data cables that connect the City of London to the rest of the world, and that's one of the world's largest financial districts. Its security concerns have been raised by our allies, the United States, the Netherlands, Sweden, and they've all raised security concerns over its embassy location. And on top of that, the embassy planning application was unredacted. Sorry, it was redacted. So we couldn't see what the rooms in the embassy would be used for. So there's a multi-story basement with 208 rooms that aren't disclosed for what their use would be. I can leave it to your imagination, but the Chinese, if they're not willing to disclose the rooms, why are they not willing to disclose those rooms? It could very well be a disco down there, but I don't think that would be the case. And one of these rooms runs directly parallel to the sensitive data cables that connect the City of London to the rest of the world.
Tomas, if I may, just one more thing I'd like to hear your thoughts on. Many other groups and organizations have written to the Prime Minister to address matters like Tibet, for example, and evidence of forced organ harvesting against practitioners of Falun Gong, Uyghurs. Your final thoughts on this? What do you think about that situation?
I mean, it's horrific. China is running a series of want for a better word, concentration camps in their country. They are sort of trying to eradicate the Uyghur culture in the Beijing province. They are forced human organ harvesting of dissidents. Within the UK itself, they are carrying out transnational repression. So there is an incident in Manchester in 2022 when they pulled a Hong Konger called Bob Chan onto the grounds of their consulate there and physically beat him up. It just took a British police officer to go into the grounds and pull him away, breaking sort of a protocol. China is not a regime that can be trusted. It is not a regime that adheres to Western liberal democratic values. It is a regime that has a view of the world, and it is a view of the world that the West should very much be standing up against, and one that we shouldn't be a part of.
The regime is not to be trusted. Great having your comments today, Tomas.
Thank you very much.